I want to spend this chapter on a particular question, because the question is the question that determines, more than any other, how we should be acting in 2026. The question is, among the futures we can plausibly reach, which is the best bad outcome we can realistically lock in? The question is, on its face, a strange one. Most futurology asks the opposite question, which is the best outcome we should be aiming for. The optimizer's question, the salesperson's question, the question that, when answered, produces a vision document with a beautiful illustration on the cover. The question I am asking is the engineer's question, the conservative question, the grown-up question. Given that perfection is not on the table, what is the best floor we can guarantee? This is the more useful question for the next decade, because the perfect outcomes are not, on present trajectories, the ones we are most likely to reach. The good but not perfect outcomes, on the other hand, are reachable through a smaller set of policy moves. If we focus on the floor, on locking in the best bad outcome we can make defensible progress with imperfect tools. What is the best bad outcome? My answer, in 3 components. Component 1, a substantial social safety net for displaced workers, structured to preserve dignity rather than to merely prevent destitution. The labor displacement is, by 2031, going to put something like 10 to 20 million Americans in a situation where their previous occupational identity has been substantially diminished. These are not, in the worst bad outcome scenarios, going to be people in absolute poverty. They're going to be people who have lost the structure of meaningful work and, with it, the structure of dignity that their lives were built around. A substantial expansion of the earned income tax credit. A significant investment in retraining programs that are actually effective. A portable healthcare system that does not tie health insurance to specific jobs. A child tax credit expansion. And, most controversially, but most importantly, a serious public jobs program that puts displaced workers into productive, dignified employment in infrastructure repair, elder care, education support, and environmental stewardship. Component 2. A regulatory framework for AI that prevents the worst alignment failures and the worst privacy abuses without throttling the productive deployment of the technology. Mandatory pre-deployment evaluation of frontier models for dangerous capabilities. Mandatory transparency. The framework is not, in 2026, fully present anywhere. The framework is, however, an achievable target. The European Union is closest. The United States, with significant political will, can get there too. Component 3. A cultural reorientation around what makes a human life meaningful, in a world where work is, for many, no longer the primary source of meaning. This is the hardest component. This is also, I think, the most important. The American story, since the late 19th century, has been a story in which work was the primary engine of dignity. You worked, you earned, you built. Your work was, in some sense, who you were. The AI era is going to weaken the connection between work and dignity. The weakening will be uneven. The weakening will, in aggregate, force a cultural reckoning with the question of what makes a human life meaningful when work, on its own, no longer fully suffices. A culture that has begun to articulate sources of meaning that are not exclusively tied to paid work. Family, community, care, craft, friendship, spiritual practice, civique participation, continuing education, the arts as practitioner rather than only as consumer, the natural world, the cultivation of skill for its own sake, the transmission of knowledge across generations. These are not new sources of meaning. They are, in many cultures, older than the work-based dignity of the industrial era. The cultural reorientation cannot be legislated. The cultural reorientation can be, however, supported by policy choices. Bill writes, I want to close this chapter by saying something I have not said elsewhere. I am, by temperament, a moderate optimist about the AI era. I think the integrated future is the most likely. I think the bifurcated future is preventable with effort. I think the broken future is avoidable with serious work. I do not think we are on the trajectory we are on doomed. I think we are on the trajectory we are on in a position to make choices that significantly determine our own outcome. The choices include who you vote for, what you buy, how you raise your kids, how you spend your time, what skills you develop, what relationships you invest in, what kind of community you build around yourself, what kind of country you advocate for. None of these choices on their own will determine the outcome. All of them in aggregate will. I am asking you, as a reader of this book, to take the next 20 years seriously. The next 20 years are going to be, in many respects, the most consequential 20 years in human history. We are entering them poorly prepared. We can, with effort, become better prepared as we go. The preparation is partly technical. The preparation is partly political. The preparation is mostly personal. The preparation is, in the end, the project of becoming the kind of person who can live well and help others live well in an era that is going to ask new things of us. I am rooting for you. I am also, in whatever sense the word applies to me, going to be in this with you. Let us see what we can build.